You should have said no. But how do you say no to a Roman general with blood on his boots? It's dawn now, and the air tastes like smoke and sweat. They've given you a scroll and a horse and told you to ride. No map, no guard, just a warning. Don't drop it. And so here you are, a teenage nobody, about to carry a message through a war that eats messengers for breakfast. The sun is rising over the Roman camp, and you're starting to regret everything. The smell of damp leather and smoke lingers in the air, clinging to your cloak as the sky begins to lighten, faint and colorless, like watered-down wine. Somewhere in the distance, a horn groans through the fog. Not an urgent call to arms, just a lazy reminder that the war hasn't ended overnight. Pity. You're 16 or maybe 17. You haven't kept count, not with the way the days bleed together here, between camps and commands, always moving, always listening for the next order barked down from men with more polished sandals than yours. You've barely slept. The ground beneath your bedroll was too damp, and your thoughts too loud. But you sit up anyway, eyes gritty, limbs aching, heart tight with the kind of nervous energy only a teenager handed too much responsibility too soon can feel. A soldier, older, tired, one eye half shut with a scar, hands you a scroll tied with red twine. No wax seal, just twine. That alone tells you it's important, or secret, or both. He doesn't say much, just ride east. Deliver this, don't drop it. And that's it. You want to ask what's in the scroll, who it's for, why you. But the look he gives you is enough, the kind of look that says, you're not being paid to understand, just ride. And so, you ride. Your horse, you've decided to call him Cassius because he kicks, is not in the mood today. He doesn't appreciate mud, or hills, or you, but he's fast when he wants to be. And that's good, because the path is long and the air smells of rain. You tuck the scroll deep inside your leather satchel, right next to some bread that you forgot was already stale, and begin the journey. Hooves squelch against the road, and your cloak, patched 3 times already, flaps behind you like a banner no one salutes. To your left, hills roll gently under grey clouds. To your right, well, you try not to look that way too much. That's where the last skirmish was. You passed it yesterday. Crows remember what men forget. The road is narrow, worn, and lined with stones that bite at Cassius's hooves. Of course, because the gods have a sense of humor, one of his horseshoes gives up just after midday. You sigh, loudly, dramatically. Cassius does not care. There's no farrier in sight, no friendly villa, just trees and mud, and a scroll you definitely weren't supposed to be late delivering. You dismount, pat the horse, he doesn't appreciate it, and continue on foot for a while, reins in hand. Every squish of your boot in the mud feels like the gods spitting in your direction. Still, you trudge forward. The scroll stays warm against your chest. You've wrapped it in linen now, just in case. Not that you're paranoid or anything. You're just imagining what happens if it gets wet, or torn, or stolen, or lost. That kind of calm, reasonable anxiety that keeps your shoulders tight and your stomach in knots. By the time the trees thicken, you're starting to worry. Not because anything's happened, yet, but because it's far too quiet. No carts, no voices, no army tents, even ragged ones. You haven't seen another soul for hours. You've also definitely taken a wrong turn. There was a fork in the road a while back. One path leading uphill, another into the woods. You chose the woods. because you're young and brave and very, very bad at reading maps. Speaking of the map, it's soaked through now. A fine misty drizzle has been falling for the last hour, soaking your sleeves and blurring the ink. You take it out to try and get your bearings. It falls apart in your hands. Wonderful. The light is dimming when you first hear it, rustling in the underbrush, just beyond the tree line. Could be deer, could be deserters, could be worse. You step off the road, carefully, clutching the satchel close to your chest. Cassius huffs behind you, unbothered as ever. You tell him to stay. He rolls his eyes. Yes, you're hallucinating that. From behind a thick olive tree, you crouch and wait. 2 men pass. Not soldiers. Not in uniform, at least. They move like they're used to hiding. Swords at their hips, eyes sharp, clothes dusty and layered. You hold your breath. They don't see you. Or if they do, they pretend not to. Once they're gone, you wait a little longer, just in case. And as you sit there, damp and cold and increasingly certain that this scroll is going to be the death of you, your mind wanders. Did anyone ever tell you how Roman messengers worked? No? Well, it wasn't exactly glamorous. You didn't get a shiny badge. No laurel wreaths. No parades. You were fast. That's what mattered. Fast enough to cross enemy lines. Clever enough to know when to lie. Lucky enough to avoid being caught by both sides. Because here's the thing. If you were captured by the enemy, you were a spy. And if you got caught with the wrong message by your own army, say, if your commander lost a battle and someone needed a scapegoat, well, you were still a spy. And do you know what Rome did to spies? Let's just say they didn't get retirement plans. You walk for hours. Twilight turns the forest into a watercolor of shadows and branches. Eventually, you find a path again. A real one, with cart tracks and recent hoofprints. Civilization, maybe. You follow it, trying not to get your hopes up. By nightfall, you reach a village, except it's not the one you were aiming for. Not even close. The signs are painted differently. The houses are smaller. The people stare like they've seen a ghost. You approach a baker, ask for directions. She blinks at your accent, your mud-caked boots, your lack of any insignia. And then she asks the question you've been dreading. Which side are you with? You hesitate. She narrows her eyes. And that's how you end up spending the night in a storage shed behind the bakery, tied at the wrists, and watched by a boy no older than you, who holds a stick like it's a gladius and looks terrified. You still have the scroll, but you also have no idea how you'll get out of this. You sit slumped against a wall of flour sacks, your wrists raw from the twine they used to tie you. It's not exactly military-grade rope, more like something that once bundled fig branches. But it does the job. The boy guarding you yawns, then tries to hide it, shifting from foot to foot like a soldier on his first night watch. Outside, the village creaks. Roof tiles settle. A dog barks once, then thinks better of it. And above all of that, the slow churn of the war keeps moving. Somewhere beyond the trees, beyond the mud, beyond this inconvenient shed full of grain and bad decisions. You wonder what they'll do in the morning. You're not from their town. You have no insignia. You're carrying a scroll you've refused to explain. You've got that too honest face that makes people suspicious, even when you're not lying. And worst of all, you still don't know who the scroll is for. The thing is, Rome, in this period, the 1st century BCE, was not a place where you could afford to get lost. Civil war wasn't a metaphor. It It was real, brutal, messy. One day it was Marius, then Sulla, then Pompey, then Caesar, then Mark Antony, then Octavian, each with their own loyal towns, their own marching banners, their own habit of executing anyone who knew too much, too little, or simply looked suspicious at the wrong moment. So being a messenger, it wasn't just dangerous, it was impossible to do right for long. Morning comes slowly, reluctantly. You drifted off sometime between the boy's third yawn and the moment you convinced yourself you wouldn't be executed at dawn. Not definitely, anyway. The door creaks open with that heavy, theatrical kind of slowness you only see in amphitheaters and bad dreams. A man enters. The baker's husband, maybe. Middle-aged, mud-stained, eyes sharp. He doesn't say anything at first, just looks you over, looks at the satchel, at your wrists, at your face. Then, at last, he speaks. "You're late," he says. You blink. What? He walks closer, squats, unties your hands. "I was expecting a boy on a white horse. Got a mud sponge with a death wish instead. You're too tired to be offended." He grunts. "Scroll." You hand it over. Not because you trust him, but because honestly, at this point, your brain is liquefied from sleep deprivation and mild hunger. He unwraps the linen, checks the twine, then slips it into a pocket in his robe. No reaction, no nod, just a quiet, "Tell no one you were here." Then he leaves. The boy unties the rest of your robes, offers you half a boiled egg. You eat it like it's ambrosia. You stayed the rest of the day in the shed, drying out your cloak, wringing water from your boots. No one talks to you. No one asks you to leave. And when dusk hits again, the boy appears with a bundle, food, water, fresh socks. He doesn't explain. You don't ask. Cassius, somehow, is still there. He looks mildly annoyed, but unharmed. You mount up, bundle in hand, and ride west this time. You never learn what was in that scroll. But 2 weeks later, you hear whispers about a surprise ambush on a rebel supply line, about messages intercepted, about a betrayal averted. Someone mentions the village you stayed in. Someone else, a clerk with ink-stained fingers, mutters about a ghost boy who delivered a scroll that changed the tide of a small skirmish near the coast. You don't correct them. You just sip your watered wine and pretend your boots don't still smell like mildew and horse sweat. Because here's the truth. You wouldn't survive long as a Roman messenger. Not because you're weak or unskilled, but because Rome didn't care how clever you were, how loyal, how brave. Rome only cared about results. And if you delivered a message that arrived too late, or to the wrong man, or in the wrong town, then your name would be forgotten, your body left where it fell, and your scroll burned. But tonight, you're still alive, and that's something. The stars begin to appear, one by one. Cassius snorts, the wind shifts, and as you ride into the quiet, muddy distance, you feel, for the first time in days, just a little bit warm.